Okay, for this problem, we've got a minus sign in front of the tangent, which means that eventually we're going to have to do a flip. Let's first start out with finding our period and our phase shift. Period is pi divided by the number in front of the x, so pi over 3 is what we're going to have there. Now for the phase shift, let me write that formula up here. It's c over b minus pi over 2b we have there. So that is going to be your phase shift formula because we have a tangent. If it was cotangent, you wouldn't have this extra part in the end, but for tangent, you do need that part there to do this correctly. All right, let's put this in c over b. Now the c is going to be whatever comes after the minus sign. So in this case, it's going to be positive pi over 3. Whenever you have a minus in here, phase shift is positive. If you have a plus, your phase shift is negative. So essentially, you're taking the opposite sign there. So we're going to do pi over 2 divided by the number in front of the x, which is 3. Then we do minus pi over 2 times b. Now in this case, the b is 3, so we have that. If you flip and multiply the first one, you get pi over 6, and then you have a pi over 6 here. So as it turns out here, your phase shift just so happens to be 0 for this particular problem. That means that's where you're going to start that's your first key point, is now going to be at 0. We also want to find a half point because we have to figure out what the other key points are going to be. We know it'll start with 0. Half point is going to equal pi divided by the period, pi over 3, divided by 2. Which means that for this one, the half point is going to be pi over 6 for that. Again, the half point formula is always period divided by 2, which is what we have here. So we know that the PS, the phase shift, is 0, and that's our first key point. Now we're just going to have to keep adding pi over 6 to that to get the other key points. So let's do that for this one here. We have 0 plus pi over 6 is going to equal pi over 6. That's your first key point. So now we want to find the other 4 key points that follow. So erase all this. Next one, we have pi over 6, and we're going to add 0 to that, or add pi over 6 to that one. And we get 2 pi over 6. We're going to keep the denominators here. We're not going to change the denominators just to make it easier, although I could reduce that. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to keep it like that. Next one, 2 pi over 6 plus pi over 6 is 3 pi over 6. And then 3 pi over 6 plus pi over 6 is 4 pi over 6. It's okay to leave these like this. You don't have to reduce those. In this case, you can leave them like that. Now we can put all these onto the graph. So we're starting out with 0 this time, so we can actually just draw our y-axis right there. And then next one we have pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, and 4 pi over 6. Now the first one, the middle one, and the last one are the ones that are going to get the vertical asymptote. So we have a vertical asymptote on the y-axis essentially is a vertical asymptote there. Our middle term gets 1, and our last term gets 1. I'm going to label 3 here because remember this one, if you have a number out front, that's a vertical stretch. So we have to do 2 things. First of all, we know the graph is going to flip, and it's going to fall as you go from left to right because of the negative you have out front. So it's going to fall and go down that way. So our graph has to generally go in that direction. What we also have to pay attention to is the number out front, which is going to be our vertical stretch. So again, it's not considered an amplitude, it's considered a vertical stretch here. Between 0 and pi over 6, I'm going to put a dot right there. It has to go through 3 at the halfway point. It's going to go through -3 down below here. It has to go in that direction because of the minus sign out front. The graph is flipped. That's how we're plotting those points that way. It's also going to go through this point right here. The halfway point is going to be 3. You don't have to label the half points in my class. That's okay. Just know you can just do you're just doing a sketch on these as it is. So it's sufficient just to go ahead and plot the points like you see there. You don't have to label the middle points between those. These that we have down here, these are sufficient. The only ones you have to label will be the vertical asymptotes and the x-intercepts that you see there. Those are the only key points that you'll need on graphs in my class. Okay, so now we're going to draw that in. It's going to follow this one. It'll hit this, it'll hit that, and go through and look something like this. This other one is going to come down here. It'll hit that, go through these points like this, and the graph will look like that. That is 2 periods. Okay, 2 cycles that you have there. Again, as long as you follow these formulas, it automatically will set you up to do 2 periods like it asked. Again, notice they're falling down this way because of the negative out front.